Hello there, welcome to the On The Air podcast. I am Danny Harrington, Dan the Radio Man. Hello, I hope you're well, back for 2024 and our first episode of the year. And we've got a few people lined up already. So I've been very busy recording. Whilst I've been doing that, I've had a journey into being a freelancer again. Which is, you know what, I think we might do a special on just freelancing at some point in the near future, but you don't want to hear me, you want to hear my guest. And you know what, before I introduce the guest, I'm going to be like Foo Fighters. I've got a confession to make. I'm going to be completely upfront. I lost the recording for the first one. I don't know how I did it. I just did it. Because presumably over the last month I've recorded a lot of stuff and I may have accidentally recorded over it on my Rode console. So, sorry, Nichola, but yeah, gonna have to do it again. Nichola Lamkin is my guest of Swindon 105.5. Hello, Nichola.
Hello, Danny. I have no problem. After all, we're radio presenters. We're used to it.
What, used to things going missing or going wrong? Or just talking for a living, I suppose. Yeah, welcome to the podcast. So we're going to talk about your radio journey, of course, which is it's brief, but I think it's an important one to say. But first of all, what were you doing before the land of radio? You were working with trains, weren't you?
I was working on the railway since 1968. I joined when I was 17 years old, and I left when I was 62. A little bit of break in service due to all reorganisations during the privatisation period. But I'll be honest, I didn't lose out on that. So I was made redundant and then got a better job afterwards. So financially, I was probably better off. But no, as I say, I did everything I obviously couldn't drive trains being colourblind, but I did inquiry office work, booking office work, station relief work at Liverpool Street. I know I could do almost anything on the station. Working on the freight side, working on the IT side, working in control, travelling on ships across the North Sea, travelling to Ireland, you name it, I did it. But I didn't lose out on it. People think, oh, you couldn't drive trains, you couldn't work on the track. I didn't lose out, honestly. No. I didn't lose out.
You would have been facing people in your day-to-day tasks. How do you think that fared in terms of transitioning over to radio?
Well, it's a long while since I faced people as such about public, because obviously when I was 17, I was dealing with the public up until 1973. Then from 73 onwards, when I worked at a freight yard, didn't actually meet the public per se. Lorry drivers by the 100, yes. Train drivers by the 100. Freight customers, yes, but not the general public. And then when I went into the IT side, well, you do face a few people that went in, but that was only when I was going around getting IT gear, trying new printers and what have you. Believe it or not, we're trying to get printers that worked in the mid-80s was very difficult. I had a whole bank of printers under test in my office, all wired in through various ribbon cables that we made up, just to see which would keep on printing. And there were some that wouldn't even print a line in the same font. It was just amazing, the dross that was on the market then. And then we found one it was a little bit noisy, but it would work and it would carry on working. And I think there's some of the initial ones that I ordered still working in various railway yards. And that was the Oki printer. So a little tiny printer. It's quite noisy, but it was reliable.
Printers, rail, what is it? How would you describe your career? Printers.
Trains, printers, screens, boats, trains, containers. When I was European container controller, because as you appreciate, we export a lot less. Well, a lot fewer containers we export than what we import. So that was always a problem, trying to get enough containers to import goods. You didn't really want to keep sending them all out empty, but there were companies used to buy up containers in Europe and want to get them back to the UK as cheap as possible. So I had a lovely job called cabotage, and everyone said, "What does cabotage mean?" Well, that's basically what it means. It means you find containers in Europe, people put their goods in, and then I give them back to the people who own the containers in the UK.
Okay.
Gets their container into UK for nothing, and it gets my goods into the UK in somebody else's containers.
Okay. So kind
Uh,
of a way around.
it's used a lot with the Far East. Mine was in like dozens, but with the Far East, it's in thousands because they're made.
Okay.
The containers are made out in the Far East, so they fill them up with cheap goods in China and Japan and whatever, bring them to UK.
Okay, so that's how that works then. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that's how that works.
yeah,
Illuminating. Something
yes.
very different from what we're used to on this podcast, but something. So where did the passion come from? We will get back to the broadcasting bit later, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to inquire. Were you passionate about trains as a kid? Was that
Oh,
why you wanted to
always.
get
Yeah,
into it?
always passionate about trains and buses and any form of transport. Always fascinated me. I couldn't really believe it when I got a job at the age of 17 being paid for what I liked doing anyway, like working journeys out, travelling around the country. I mean, I travelled all over the home counties around London by bus when I was a teenager. And people think, oh, that was a waste of time. And it still isn't. Because I'll still say to someone, if we go down this street here and we're going, that will bring us out to, how do you know that? I said, well, yeah, the number 70 odd bus used to go that way. So it, it got me out and about because
You
we
know
didn't have a
what? You would
car.
you would have made a brilliant travel reporter on radio.
Oh, yes, of course I would have done. And I could still do that now. That's why I used to like covering the drive show for you because, I like doing that sort of thing.
You could have done it for like Radio Caroline. Get on a boat and do the travel news.
Yeah, well, that's
Just
it. Could
look
have
out
done.
the port side. So that was kind of your fascination from an early age. But bringing it back to radio, what did you listen to as a kid? Was it pirate radio?
Oh, yes. Pirate radio was my passion. I loved it because the BBC was so out of touch. And I mean, so out of touch. It really was out of touch. There was nothing that they were playing on their radio stations that would have interested me as a teenager. And you think, all right, I'm 72 now. Oh, I must like 50s music. 50s music was rubbish. Sorry, that's the way I look at it. You could say to me, what good music was there in the 50s? And I'll think of, well, there was Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. That was the late 50s, I think. And there was I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts. They're the only thing I can remember from those days. And then come the 60s, music was there for the youth because the youth were coming of an age then. So the youth in the 40s and 50s didn't really have a lot of say in that sort of thing because we'd been through the war and austerity and what have you. So 60s, people would be able to, achieve and listen to what they wanted to do. We were frowned upon by the older generation,
Of course.
But the BBC still frowned upon the youth.
Oh,
So the
yes.
pirate stations was able to fulfil what we wanted to hear. But you could get a little bit of nice music on Radio Luxembourg, but that used to come and go, literally.
Yes. So outside of the this is the BBC, the posh bloke going, this is the British Broadcasting Corporation, that guy, and shamefully my only reference point for Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini is the Timmy Mallet version from the 90s.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well,
Which is just...
yeah. But then, of course, eventually the BBC saw sense and thought, hold on, we can get a lot of listeners if we try and appeal to the youth.
Well, they brought in all the pirate guys, didn't they?
Yeah, they employed all the guys that we listened to. So all the guys that we listened to on the pirate stations were there on the BBC because the pirate radio stations were coming to an end. Can't think why. I thought it'd have been just easier to leave them and have them because we didn't have all these independent radio companies, other ones as such.
It was illegal. It was illegal.
It was illegal, but
anybody
why
bar
make
the BBC?
something illegal that the majority of the people want? This is what I can never understand.
So, what did you enjoy other than Luxembourg? What about Radio Caroline? Because you were a Londoner, so you would have grown up with that. Radio London as well.
Radio London, yeah. Radio London, I probably listened to more than Radio Caroline, but they were good. They were playing the music that I wanted to hear.
Oh, brilliant.
And
because Radio London, where did that broadcast from? Because I know Luxembourg, obviously self-titled Luxembourg, and on a particular frequency. Radio Caroline was on a boat. Radio London, I assume, was on a boat, or was that the one on the Manson forts out in the
Yeah, I think it was
Thames
on one
Channel.
of those Napoleonic forts out in the estuary, from what I gather. That's where I thought they were. And Caroline was actually on a proper boat. But it didn't matter where they came from, but it was the music that we wanted to hear.
And then obviously all the guys
And you mentioned
transitioned.
Radio Luxembourg's frequency. I think it varied, that frequency.
Yes.
It varied so much. It almost sounded like it was like a circular broadcast. It came and went. Then it got so bad and it was just crackly. And it came back again. It was a funny thing to listen to. You couldn't record of it, but obviously because the reception was so bad. But then we started with Radio 1, which was really good. You know, as you say, it was the popular DJs from the pirate radio ships. It was the music we wanted to hear.
Yeah, and then the government decided, wow, we should give this commercial radio stuff a try, and then the London Broadcasting Corporation came along, today LBC, and Capital and that kind of stuff.
LBC, when that started off being
70s,
a news station in 1973, everyone said, how are they going to fill the whole day with news? And within hours of them starting up, we had the Arab-Israeli war. Now, I'm not saying that was a good thing, but it was a godsend to them because they had some news to fill in immediately. Because they could have started off and there'd been nothing. Because you do get bad news days.
Yes, and quiet ones as well. But 1973 they started, and along a week ahead of Capital, which was a music commercial station, which I think was, probably more in demand than anything else. But those stations like Capital just took what the pirates did and did that. Essentially, they just played music because pirate radio had advertising. They had companies pay them. Because they knew they had the audience, so that's how they funded themselves.
Right audience.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Not just there's not any audience. You've got a specific audience listening to those pirate stations, so they're able to direct things at the youth.
Yeah,
which is the thing.
And you're not advertising on the BBC, so
no. Well, that's it. The BBC has always shunned advertising. I don't know how much longer they can keep that up for, really.
Well, that's pure speculation at this point, where the license fee goes. I think when's the renewal, 25 or 26, I think. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But bringing it back to you and radio. So before radio, you were TV bound.
Yes, I was.
You did pop up here and there, and it was...
the first time I was on television was quite by accident. I'd actually phoned in sick at work, and then... because I literally was sick. I was throwing up all over the place because once you've done that, you sometimes feel a little bit better. You feel a bit weak for an hour or so, and then you think, well, that's it. Whatever was making me ill was gone. I feel okay. Well, my daughter had to go to Bath to see a homeopath. So I said, well, yeah, I'll come with you on the train. And it was a day of a fare increase. So it's typical of TV companies. If there's a fare increase on the railway, to remind people what a train looks like, they could describe a train from the studio or have a picture of a train, but no, they have to have someone at the station watching a train pull in or pull out. And of course, they took I was shocked getting on the train with my daughter, and of course, everyone at work saw it when I was actually rung in sick. But I said I felt better, and I already rung in to say I'd be in the next day. So that was the first time I was on television. I didn't plan to be, but I was. The second time I was on television was a programme that Central Television wanted to do about families that have got children that have been involved with drugs. I'm not proud of that, but I said my piece. It was quite well accepted, actually. So all I had from people was it was very good, because people forget about, the repercussion to the family dealing with a child who's on drugs, because they're suffering from stuff being stolen, dodgy people coming to the door and all things like that. And people forget about their families, the siblings of the people. And so that was what, and Central did it well. They were here at my house for the day interviewing me. And I know it ended with me just walking down the road with the dog. So I never saw it. This was the crazy thing. I never saw it.
Did they broadcast it, or did they not? Did they tell you?
No, it was broadcast because people saw it. Somebody come in.
But you never saw it.
shook me by the hand and said, "Well said." I said, "Oh, was it on tonight?" And he said, "Yes." And I'd never seen it. And in those days, we didn't have catch up. You
They
know,
probably got it in the ITV archive then, if it was
it probably
Central
is
Television.
there somewhere. Well, that's it. And then the next time I was on television was deliberate in 2015. I thought, I'd like to be in the audience of a television show just once, just to see how it's done. And I watched The Right Stuff on television every day. I always used to watch it. It was a sort of ritual of mine watching that. And I rang up a nice guy called Alex Davudi, and I said, "Can I come into the audience?" He said, "Yeah. When are you available? Can you come tomorrow?" I said, "Well, yeah, okay then." So I went up there. It was a Friday. I went up there, and Alex said to me, "You available any other days?" I said, "Well, at that time, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays." "Right, I'll show you down for every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday." He said to me, "Okay, then, fair enough." And then things changed, and I eventually went every day for about 4 years, I think. I enjoyed it. Met some great people. That's both sides of the studio, the floor managers, the guests, so all sides of it really, and the other audience members and everything like that. And someone said, "Oh, you'll get well known on here." And I said, "Oh, will I?" They said, "Yes, people will be, contact you." I said, "Well, don't think so." And of course it did. I still get people come up to me now and say, "Oh, I remember you. I remember what you said about so-and-so."
Well, that's where I first became aware of you, because in my student days in Stoke-on-Trent, hungover in the morning, because, I'd been out the night before, right stuff on in the morning, eating my whatever cereal or, let's face it, leftover pizza from the night before, just sat there hungover and going, okay, what are they talking about today? And then, lo and behold, you turn up at Swindon 105.5, and I'm like, I know you from somewhere, and I can't work out.
Different people had asked me to do radio for a long while, and I'm thinking, well, I can't do radio and television. I've got some time to myself, and the time just never fitted in. I said, well, if ever it's a chance in the afternoon, I'll do it. Try and commit it in, because as well as that, I was doing victim support. But which we know, which is interviewing victims of crime and trying to sort things out, trying to make things better for them if I could. And I was pretty good at that, actually, funny enough. But it comes a time when you just can't do everything. And it was because I was with victim support. They had a seminar in the National Trust building in Swindon. I'm trying to think what the building's called. It's got a name. I can't remember it now. But anyway, it's by the Outlet Village. So I went to this seminar on this particular Saturday, and that's where I met Janie, and that's where I met Hannah. And they said to me, "You've got to get involved in this radio program. We do every fourth Tuesday or something," they said. I said, "Okay." Basically, you contact me when you want me, so to speak. Anyway, about a month later, it was actually Caroline who contacted me and said to me, "We're doing a program next Tuesday. Are you available?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, can we meet in the coffee shop first before we do it?" So we met in a coffee shop. In fact, it was the coffee shop outside the station. We actually sat outside in the fresh air, and it was one of these things that we all just gelled. We were just talking, and we was all in hysterics. And they said, "You've got to join our team." I said, "Well, okay then." I wasn't actually feeling that well actually at the time, but I said, "Yeah, okay, that'll good. That'll get me back, up and outside again, because it's easy when you're not feeling well just to stay in." So we did the show, and they said to me, "Well, come and meet the manager, because you're part of the team now." And that's how I started with Swindon 105.5, really as a guest. But it was one of these things where I gelled so well with the rest of the team, even though the whole team didn't get on very well themselves, I dare say. There was one or two characters who seemed to clash on it, but they've gone their separate ways now, so that's not that important. And of course, I've gone on to other things. I just found radio so natural, to be honest. Because all the time I worked in the control office, and even with IT, you don't see the people you're dealing with. If you're in an IT help desk, you don't see the person who's taking something apart the other end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know
And
what
they
you're
say,
saying.
oh, the modem isn't working. Okay, well, describe to me what lights you are getting, and then telling them what lights they should be getting. So there's a lot of difference between doing that and doing radio.
Yes, yes. Is it Helus? That's the
Yeah, I
name of
think
the
that's the name
national.
of the building.
It's
Yes.
something to do with Beatrix Potter. It's
Yes.
it's her married name or something like that. So there you go.
Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Google.
Yes. So that was where I met. And so, but of course, it backfired on victim support because I went there representing them, and never really came back. If you know what I mean.
You
You
were
can't.
taken.
I still tried to do a little bit. In fact, when I was doing victim support, one guy said to me, I just saw you on television. How have you got here so quickly?"
The magic of
Because,
television.
well, the magic of coming home by fast train, really. Program ended at 11:15. I was on the 11:45 train. I met him at 1 o'clock in Swindon because he sort of watched me, had his dinner, then come over and met me in the Sainsbury's cafe for this meeting.
So let's talk about your introduction to radio, because if people have been saying, "Oh, you'd be good on radio," which a lot of people did, what made you finally take that jump and go, you know what, I'm going to do this. I've found my free afternoon, as you were saying. I'm going to do it.
Well, exactly. Well, as I say, I did this show once a month, and honestly, we timed everything to the second. We did, honestly, we did. First show we did was timed to the exact second, and and it worked. But then one of my colleagues, one of your colleagues as well, Adrian, said to me one lunchtime, "Why don't you come in and sit in with the musical lunch break?" He said, "It would be good to have someone on there with me." I said, "Well, yeah, okay." I said, and he sort of introduced it, and he was announcing the music, and I said, "Well, I'm not just going to sit here." He said, "Oh no," he said, "we do a television quiz." He said, "But I haven't got a television." He said, "You'd probably be quite good at that." You played the theme music from a television show, gave some clues, and then eventually you gave people the answer. I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So I did that. And then he said, "I hate doing the weather." I said, "Well, I don't mind doing the weather." He said, "We'll get it from," I said, "Don't worry about getting it from so-and-so internet set. I will do the weather." Anyway, I did the weather. And there were some builders rebuilding the library at the time. And Adrian always used to go in and say to these builders, "How do you think today's show went?" And they'd say, "Yeah, that wasn't too bad, you know." And he went in that day and they said to him, "That's the best show you've ever done. That really works, having that other person there with you." Okay, so anyway, he said to me, "Why didn't you try and do it with me every day?" So I did it every day with him that I could. And we even pre-recorded some. And then he decided, I think, that he wanted to do the show on his own. I don't really know the full reasoning behind it, but it disappointed me a little bit because I quite liked working with Adrian. But then a chance came up for doing a Wednesday afternoon show. Shirley was in there and she put the phone down and she said, "Oh, I've just been let down by two people who were going to do a 2-hour show every Wednesday afternoon." I said, "Oh, right." I called Carolyn over because she was editing something. I said, "So repeat what you're looking for, Shirley. You're looking for two people to do a show 2 hours every Wednesday afternoon." She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, we're here." "Oh, can you do?" I said, "Yeah. When do you want it? Oh, can you start doing it next Wednesday?" I said, "Right, consider it done." And of course, then I said to Carolyn, "How are we going to fill 2 hours?" "Oh, we will." And to be honest, we fill 2 hours every week. We leave things to the next show. There's always things to talk about.
Was it one of those moments where the light opened up the clouds from the sky and suddenly shone upon you, and it's like,
Well, we had our own show. I wasn't relying on somebody else. It was somebody I could work with. Karen and I could work with quite well. We even we even though we're ourselves, we do play a character. I'm always complaining about something, and she's always trying to reason with me. That's the sort of thing we do in there. But we do a good show together. I think we had, after a year or so, I thought, let's try and do something different. And somebody came in and said, "Oh, I was listening to you and Carolyn last Wednesday." He says, "I had to stop the band." He said, "I couldn't stop laughing." He says, "Never change the format." And this guy was a radio presenter, and I thought, right, okay, we'll keep the same format. We'll have guests every so often, not every week, but we'll have guests in. And this week we've got a lady whose cat has got cancer, and she's doing a bucket list for her cat. And that was, well, I thought, oh, well, we're probably talking for about 5 minutes. We got about 40 minutes interview with this lady. That's 40 minutes after editing. So it fills an hour really with some music. So that's the sort of thing we do on a Wednesday afternoon. And then when Adrian, who doing the lunchtime show, he left. A couple of other people tried to do it but weren't available. And then they didn't. They kept on dipping out. And I said to Shirley, I said, look, you can't have nobody doing the lunchtime show. I'll do it till you find someone. Well, that was 2020. So halfway through 2020, I said to Shirley, I said, it's my show now.
So now I'm 4 years later.
Well, it's my show. Well, no, it's halfway through 2020. We'd just come out or we was relaxing one of the lockdowns. And I said, it's my show. So I did it all through the lockdown. It got me through the lockdown. It gave me something to do during the lockdown. And if I found out also, it got other people through the lockdown.
I can imagine that.
It was something to time the day. Oh, Nicola's on at 12. Let's listen what she's up to today. And that was that. And there's a couple of people come to work for the radio station purely because of my show.
Yeah, I mean, you get listeners. I won't say you're just.
I'm not global, but I have.
Well, you are kind of international. You're continental, maybe. You're continental.
Yes. Yeah, listener in the Czech Republic, listeners in Cornwall. It was listeners in the Northwest. It was amazing who I had. Obviously, we had an awful lot more listeners during lockdown, because during most people's got a busy day. Like it or not, they ain't going to sit next to a radio show, a radio all day listening to a radio show. But during the lockdown, they were there. They had a lot more free time, and it gave them a sort of marker in the day. Well, I want to listen to this radio program between 12 and 1. Then I'll have my dinner or something like that, or I'll have my lunch while I'm listening to it. It was a point in the show, point in the day there.
I was going to say, what makes for you, what is radio to you? What makes a show a show? Because there's different things for different people. So what is it that appeals to you?
People like a format that they like, but they like, even though it's a format, they don't want to listen to the same every day, but they like the same format. They don't, you've got to introduce change slowly. If you start doing something completely different, you lose all your regular listeners, and you've got to find out what people like. You've got to think like you don't think like you're talking to hundreds of people. It's just like talking to one person. You just got to think of one person perhaps you're talking to, and I say I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I prefer doing live radio to recording, but like all of us, sometimes we can't do everything live. Because once you come out of that news and you get a couple of adverts, then it's up to you. It's down to you to entertain people for an hour.
Yeah, I always when I started, I was whenever I put the mic up, I was always like, okay, now you've really got to decide whether you're gonna sink or swim. I love that.
Yes,
especially with new
that's
people.
why I like doing your drive show when you weren't available to do it, because there was a format there. But what you did between the traffic reports and the entertainment news or the sports news, that was down to you. But you still had to go to that format. You know what I mean? You had this fixed format, and you think, whatever I do, I want to do that live traffic update at 4:15.
Oh yes.
And then you think of what do I do between 4:15 and 4:30? How I've put 2 pieces of music and perhaps a chat about something.
Yeah, it was always
during the
always
lockdown,
a piece of nonsense.
There wasn't much traffic, was there?
No,
I filled it up with all sorts of things like the wrong answers to family fortunes, funny insurance claims, and all things like that, just to keep people perhaps entertained who were driving home.
I remember one of the more pointless links that we did. I say pointless. It was funny to me, and I know it was funny to a lot of other people. Was a classic piece of television advertising for the holiday park in the New Forest that my mother found hilarious. So I just wanted her on air, and I got her on air just saying, okay, listen to this advert, Sandy Balls. and she proceeded to just laugh for 5 minutes, and that was she
but
couldn't
also,
believe it.
You did quizzes during the lockdown, which were good. I thought they were really good.
Yeah, well, I didn't conduct those. Well, we did like a quiz of the week beforehand, and then we dropped it, and then we brought it back in lockdown because why not? Why not? It gives somebody it gives us somewhat
and you
entertainment.
had backward pieces of music being played backwards and whatever like that.
Yeah,
and there are things that just break the boredom of someone stuck in the traffic driving home. And of course, they'll listen. They might get home. They'll sit on the drive and listen for another 5 minutes to hear the answer.
Yeah,
I know I've done that.
I mean, there's nothing original with radio anymore. You just take something that's already been done and you put your own twist on it. It's you're not reinventing a wheel, I suppose. But your lockdown was very good for you in terms of listening figures and you audience reach.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
and also
post-lockdown,
other things relating to the radio station, because I went in every day. There's nobody else there, but there was so much. It wasn't all. It didn't run itself in those days. The manager didn't come in because they were frightened if she got COVID, the radio station might fold. So she worked from home, and I was lots of things had to be done manually, like putting in repeat shows. Also, if people didn't put in a show, I was there to do a live show if necessary. And I've done all sorts of hours. And I think my best was coming in at 10 o'clock, doing 10 till 12, then 12 till 1, then 2 till 4, and then 4 till 6. I wouldn't want to do that every day.
You should try doing a 4-hour show on the BBC. You should try and do that. That is a
towards the end of that last 2-hour show, I was feeling a bit tired. It's not physical work, but it's mental work.
Yeah, but it's I like to think of it as a performance art. So you exert yourself in other ways. So yeah. It's a performance art in that respect. So, in regards to radio, what advice would you have for anybody looking to break into the business, as it were?
Oh, let's think. What advice would I give? Because it's different for everybody. Some people might be nervous of doing it. Other people might be very confident or perhaps overconfident. But it's learn how to work the equipment first. Make sure you can do that you almost do it without even thinking, and then just be yourself. Then don't try and be somebody else. And that was advice someone gave me when I was covering you, where you couldn't do the drive show for a couple of days, and someone said to me, "Just don't try to be Danny." I said, "Well, no, I didn't think about trying to be Danny." I said, I want to keep his format the same because he's got a format that works. But between those fixed points in the show, I'm myself.
Yeah.
And that's the way I did it.
Yeah, I guess I would always say if somebody's covering someone, do it your way. Don't do it. Don't be a cheap imitation. Don't be a knockoff.
First time I did the drive show, I was nervous because I'd never done it before and having to fit those fixed things. But after a while, you just find everything just drops into place.
Oh yeah,
because you think of the timing is a crucial thing, because you could go waffling on and completely lose the time. You get to know what fits in particular time. If there's something you want to say over the intro of a piece of music, you see you've got 14 seconds. You or I could talk for 14 seconds without even looking at a watch, because we know what you can say in that particular length of time.
Yeah, there's a skill to it, although I think a lot of people look at it from the outside and think, I could do that. And it's much more challenging than I think it really looks. So
and you could learn how to alter the pace of it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you think, I've actually got 18 seconds. I could just pad it out just a tiny little bit, because those 4 seconds soon go.
Yeah, you don't want to be underrun or anything like that. So in terms of radio. Where can we hear your dulcet tones?
Well, on Swindon 105.5. You hear me lunchtimes between 12 and 1, Tuesday through to Friday. You can hear me and Carolyn on a Wednesday afternoon between 2 and 4 and hear me ranting about something. And, of course, you can hear me on Thursday and Friday mornings between 9 and 10, where I try and cover a local programme. Not very successfully at the moment because I don't spend much time in Swindon.
Yeah,
so I have to use used pieces that perhaps done by other people that I splice in. Plus, of course, I add bits of my own. But I don't. I would like to have more local input myself, but because I'm spending a lot of time up in London.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I would love to do a radio show in London. I would love to do that.
Well, if you would like to give Nichola a show in London, where can we find you? Social media and email, potentially. What's your socials?
So, well, I'm on everything. But if you look for Nichola, that's Nichola Lamkin, you'll find me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm everywhere. Twitter, Instagram. I'm even on that. What was that new one that started off? Threads. I'm even on there. Yeah, I'm on everything. So, I can be found.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be difficult finding me. But it's most important to spell my name like Nichola, and surname is Lamkin, Lamkin. And I've had people put B's, P's, and all sorts of things in the middle of that name. Why? I don't know. Why smuggle in private, silent letters?
Yeah. Otherwise, your Swindon 105.5 email address is Nichola.Lamkin at
Swindon1055.com. Yeah.
There you go. So if you want to email,
can get me on there.
There you go.
People can get me. But I would love to just do either a show with someone or even a show on my own in London or for London, because I spend part of my time in London. I lived for the first 35 years of my life in London. I'm now, I suppose, I'm officially Wiltshire because I've been 37 years in Wiltshire. I've been in Wiltshire longer than London.
Well, we'll see what we can do. You're the only person I know that runs their own parody Twitter account based on themselves. So
yeah, I have got my own parody account, so be careful you don't log on to that. I thought I'd just do it for a laugh.
Who's that troll taking the mic? Oh, wait, it's me.
yeah. Well, I just did it for a laugh one day. I thought, everyone's got them. Boris Johnson's got one. I think Suella Braverman's got one. And, they've all got them. So I thought, I'll do my own.
Join the club. Nichola, thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you to Nichola for being my guest on this month's edition of the podcast. You can check out her shows on Swindon 105.5, the community radio station for Swindon and Marlborough now, as they've switched on the small-scale DAB in their area, as they are the licence holder, and they won that bid. Well done to them and Shirley and everybody involved there. You can see their schedule at swindon1055.co.uk, and you can, of course, email Nichola if you want to, nichola.lamkin. Don't put a P or a B in there. Lamkin. Nichola.Lamkin at swindon1055.com. You can email her there. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. It's Dan the Radio Man. We do the radio news. We do radio jobs. We sometimes have a bit of a rant. We try and have a little bit of fun. And we look at the insane world of radio, which continues to be crazy and continues to be insane and continues very much to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller, shutting out a lot of people. So, we talk about that a lot. You can follow me on socials. On X, it's at DJ_Danny_H. It's the same on Instagram. It's the same on Threads, although, quite frankly, Threads is already dead. Don't really use it. And, of course, you can check out my website. It is djdannyh.uk. That's all one word, djdannyh.uk, where you can find out everything that I'm getting on with and all my latest kind of reels and demos and all the audio and all the videos that I'm doing. And you can check out my my other website as well, which is deadair.media, for the latest news on showbiz, music, sport, and everything like that. There are a number of YouTube channels I also do on TikTok as well. Thank you very much for tuning into the podcast. We will see you in a month's time for the next edition of the On The Air podcast.